Let's talk a little bit about the economy. Yesterday, the British government said it would be injecting billions of dollars of cash into its banks to protect the economy there in light of what some are calling the most dangerous point in the financial crisis in over 2 years in Europe. If the European economy falls apart, the American economy is going to be in big trouble. What should we be doing right now?
Well, I wish that over the last 3.5 years that the president would have taken action to rebuild the basis of our economy, its foundation, get it on such a strong footing that the challenges in Europe, if they occur, wouldn't have as significant impact as they might otherwise. But right now we're dealing with 23 million people out of work or stopped looking for work or underemployed. Homes are still bumping along the bottom, foreclosures at very high levels, median incomes way down. The president's frankly made it harder for our economy to reboot. I'd strengthen the basis of America's economic might. Hopefully we never have to go back.
How would you do that?
Well, there are a number of things, but the top three, for instance, one is to take advantage of our energy resources. We have an extraordinary gift, which is massive natural gas reserves, as well as coal and oil.
But I mean, would that work right now? I mean, that's going to take a while to get that going. I mean, I'm talking about what if this whole thing falls in Europe? What should we be doing here? Should we become involved? What do we do?
Well, we're not going to send checks to Europe. We're not going to bail out the European banks. We're going to be poised here to support our economy, but I'm very much in favor of the fundamental things one does to strengthen the economic footings of a nation. And as to what's going to happen in Europe and what kind of impact that will have here, time will tell. But our banks are on a much stronger basis than they were at the time of the last economic crisis, and they have built their capital base and their equity base and worked through a lot of their toxic assets, their toxic loans, and I hope that regardless of what happens in Europe, that our banking sector is able to weather the storm.
The Federal Reserve, as I understand it, is going to meet this week to weigh the possibility of a new economic stimulus for our economy. Now, you didn't think much of the last stimulus. What do you think they should do now? Is it time for another?
Well, the QE2, as it's called, which was a monetary stimulus, did not have the desired effect. It was not extraordinarily harmful, but it does put in question the future value of the dollar, and it will obviously encourage some inflation down the road. A QE3 would do the same thing. I know how it is. Politicians in office want to do everything they can just before an election to try and temporarily boost something. But the potential threat down the road of inflation is something which we have to be aware of. And the last QE2, the last monetary stimulus, did not put Americans back to work, did not raise our home values, did not bring jobs back to this country or encourage small businesses to open their doors. What's wrong with our economy is that our government has been warring against small, middle, and large businesses. And people in the business world are afraid to make investments and to hire people. I want to make it very clear that under my administration, government will see itself as the friend of enterprise and job creators, and we'll start building jobs again.
But are you saying here that when this trouble that's going on in Europe right now, that there's not much we can do but just sort of watch and see what happens?
We can certainly offer our counsel, and we can look nation by nation and talk about the kinds of things we think are appropriate for them to do, which actions we think are too challenging for them to deal with, which actions would have the best chance of shoring up their banking sector. But I certainly don't believe that we should expose our national balance sheet to the vagaries of what's going to be happening in Europe. Europe is capable of dealing with their banking crisis if they choose to do so. Obviously, this is going to depend enormously on Germany. But they and others will have to make that decision. But we don't want to go in and start providing funding to European banks.